Welcome to the Nova Minerals October 2022 update. An update on the Estelle Gold Project, where we are developing North America's next major gold trend. For starters, we provide the disclaimer. Please read at your leisure. And let's get into it. Nova at a glance. It's really all about the Estelle Gold Project, situated within the Estelle Gold Trend, 35-kilometer long mineralized corridor, where we've defined several deposits to date. Our high-grade RPM resource, our bulk tonnage Corbell resource, and massive upside across the 450 square kilometer claim block. We're in Alaska, of course, tier 1 jurisdiction, always in the top 5 in the Fraser Institute investment and geological potential. We have a number of exciting investments as well in our strategic investments in our portfolio, and as well exciting milestones coming up, which we'll talk about here in the upcoming slides. And a quick corporate snapshot: share price hovering between 65 and 70 cents recently. Certainly a challenging market, especially the gold sector, the resource sector in general. However, if you look at it a longer term, like the chart on the bottom shows, where Nova, since Estelle really got started in 2018, we're up almost 400% over that time from 2018 till 9, compared to the All Ords gold, which is down almost 7%, and the Van Eck juniors is down almost 14%. So in terms of that, Nova doing quite well. Nova doing quite well over that period of time. Share distribution, top 20, holding almost 40%. Board and management, a good chunk at 12.5%, and they participated in most credit ratings and made a significant, consistent on-market purchases. Our board of directors, very stacked board, deep, stacked with talent, deep experience in executive and board roles. Of all of these members, we have all the bases covered with project finance, capital markets, project building, geology, metallurgy, mining engineering, compliance, and auditing. I can assure you, and most importantly, perhaps, that entrepreneurial spirit and entrepreneurship and success in that realm. I can assure you, your board is working 24/7, 365 as we move the Estelle Gold Project towards production. Where are we? So as said, we're situated in Alaska. We're within the Tintina Gold Province. This has been one of the most prolific belts in recent decades, with over 200 million ounces of documented discoveries and some projects coming into production. To name a few would be Kinross, one of their flagships at Fort Knox to the north of us, with over 11 million ounces, been operating for decades up there, really the type deposit for these intrusive related type gold systems. Victoria Gold on the Yukon side, a very successful recent startup operating there for about 2 years now. The Pogo, another Australian company, Northern Star. Donlin Creek, which is the Nova Gold Barrick joint venture, over 45 million ounces there at that deposit. And we sit just on the southern end of this belt, which we're in this neighborhood, 10 million plus ounce deposits, not uncommon, and that's certainly what we're onto with some of the deposits that we've already defined at Estelle. Now, zooming right in, that white shaded area is the Estelle claim block. In terms of infrastructure, access, and power, at the site, we have an airstrip, 4,000 foot plus airstrip. We utilize a winter trail for 3 or 4 months of the year. And now there is a proposed West Susitna access road. This project is gaining steam and gaining widespread support across the local community and government, both local as well as the state government. They've reached a major milestone that the application has been accepted, and now it will be progressing to the environmental permitting process. In terms of power, quite a few options there. The proposed Donlin Gold gas pipeline will be passing 10 to 15 miles to the north of us. So there's potential for an offtake agreement there. And also, interestingly, The state government is really pushing with modular nuclear reactors. The remote native villages in Alaska are very keen to get these mini nuclear reactors, as well as the first unit is to be installed in the Fairbanks area in the state in a couple years' time. So we're talking to Westinghouse on that front, and we're also importantly speaking to Agrico, which is a power solutions, the world premier power solutions expert, and they're advising us. A bit on the project history. The claims were staked in 2017. And then in 2019, Nova started its work in earnest with the first drilling program. The result of that was a maiden resource of 2.5 million ounces. And so since that time, we've been drilling nonstop. And to date, now we've increased that to almost 10 million ounces. Also, the economic studies are well progressed, just finishing up our scoping studies with phase 2 on the horizon. That'll include the high-grade RPM deposit. And so we've managed to accomplish a lot and been quite successful with expending a relatively low amount of investment and at a very low cost. So the discovery cost per ounce is $3.50, and because we have a year-round operation, the drilling cost per meter is $250. Very competitive, even with Kalgoorlie as a benchmark with roadside drilling. And the reason for that is that we don't mobilize and demobilize every year, and we've really put the site infrastructure in place to optimize our operations in terms of cost and efficiencies. This slide really tells the story. I don't know what else to add. Really, this is a success story in growing gold resources. You can see the steep upward trajectory. Every year we do a resource update and drill. We're increasing the resource by over 1 million ounces. Unique, or if not unique, certainly very rare with any other compared to any other gold project in the world. And we're only getting started. So the current resource hasn't incorporated the drilling we've done this year, and so we expect to far exceed 10 million ounces in the next resource update coming up shortly. And where do all those ounces come from? Well, firstly, the jewel in the crown, as I've said, from the RPM deposit. This is our high-grade resource, and currently the resource stands at 1.5 million ounces at an average grade of 2 grams per ton. And it's that RPM North zone is shaping up to be very broad, very continuous high-grade gold right on the surface, outcropping on the surface, open pittable. The mineralization there remains wide open, along strike and at depth. And these are world-class drill intercepts by any measure for the record books. And you can see on the right-hand side, to rattle off a few, 132 meters at 10.1 grams per ton within a larger intercept of 400 meters at 3.5 grams per ton, 117 meters at 11.1 grams per ton within a larger intercept of 258 meters at 5.1 grams per ton. And it just goes on and on. Just spectacular intercepts, very continuous, broad zone, this bonanza grade zone. This plan, zooming out to get a larger perspective, you have RPM North, of course, where we have the high grade bonanza zone mineralization, the lower intrusive, which we've intersected, and also RPM South, which we've drilled now as well. At RPM South, our surface sampling actually showed a much larger footprint than even RPM North, and we've drilled that now, and certainly no assay results back for that area yet, but we have about 8 drill holes into there, and certainly the geological observations show us it's genetically linked to RPM North, and it actually connects. And it connects the intrusion that we're intersecting in RPM South connects to that lower second intrusion that we're seeing in the deeper holes at RPM North. And so what that opens, it opens up a 600 meter long zone, target zone, that has high potential to expand the resource and for further mineralization, of course. And we plan to drill that. That's a high priority target for next year to continue to expand and increase the resource at RPM. And because, of course, with the ongoing economic and mining studies, this is the highest priority deposit that we have currently. Here's a plan view of RPM North. We've currently defined through drilling 400 meters of strike length, very close space drilling. This is just based on drill density. This is measured level resource drill spacing. The deposit at RPM North remains open along strike and down dip. The Bonanza zone, where we get extremely high grades within that RPM North, is a volume of 150 meters long, 50 meters wide, and 300 meters depth that we've defined it with drilling to date. So quite a substantial zone. The high grade core, and then of course it's much larger going out from that. And very significantly, we drilled some deeper holes at RPM North, and we identified a second mineralized intrusive, a lower mineralized intrusive there in RPM hole RPM 025. In that, we've intercepted additional significant mineralization, and that provides huge upside to the resource, to expand the resource at RPM. Now looking at RPM North in sectional view, here's a few type sections, and you can see what we're onto there. It's an intrusive related gold system, and so the gold is focused around these intrusive units. It's very steeply dipping, and the highest grade mineralization tends to be concentrated along the contact with the Hornfels country rock. The section on the right, you can see where we've intersected now the outer intrusion. So there's two intrusives there. The more narrow intrusive on the right-hand side of the section is that very high grade RPM North zone, that Bonanza zone. You can see 67 meters at 10.4 grams per ton in one of these intercepts in hole RPM 022. And then in RPM 025, that second, it's going through that lower second intrusive, mineralized intrusive zone. And there we're getting typical of what we initially encountered at RPM North, 76 meters at 1.2 grams per ton, 66 meters at 0.8. And those are concentrated along the contacts, no surprise, but the intrusive is mineralized throughout. And so that's a very exciting discovery, actually. A great deal of our resource inventory also comes from another deposit, our Corbell deposit. Very exciting deposit. This is our bulk tonnage resource, almost 1 billion tons in the resource, currently hosting 8.1 total ounces, 8.1 million ounces total, and 3 million of those ounces are indicated. With the drilling we've done this year, the entire deposit is now drilled out to indicated density drilling, so we expect more of these resources to be transferred into indicated in the upcoming gold resource. Classic intrusive related gold system. 3 kilometers of strike length, just a very, very large system. There is our phase 1 scoping study looked at Corbell as a standalone, looked at Corbell only, and very positive outcome just in its own right, with an almost $400 million NPV over a 15-year mine life, a 3-year payback, and within that 3-year payback was very low strip ratio, less than 1-to-1, producing 186,000 ounces per year at an AISC of $879 US. Right on the surface, this deposit and the geometry of the deposit is ideal. With it's not narrow vein. It is like a large elliptoidal shape, so very ideal economics with this type of a deposit geometry. Extremely sensitive to gold grade as well. And so in the phase 2 scoping study now, we'll be including the RPM 2 gram per ton resource. And so that'll we expect that to blow the key project economics off the charts. So, but with Corbell, very large relatively lower grade resource. If you look at some of these intercepts, the KB DH024, 549 meters at 0.3 grams per ton. And, that's typical throughout the deposit. And within the Corbell resource, we have a much higher grade feeder structure, which typically is running 50 to 100 meters within that kind of 1 gram per ton range. The Corbell Valley, in its own right, is a massive mineralized system. We believe we're onto a 10 million plus ounce whopper here at Corbell. Of course, it hosts the Corbell main deposit, where we've defined already 8.1 million ounces. In the previous resource, 3 million of those ounces were indicated status. Since that time, we've completed additional infill drilling at Corbell main and expect that further resources will be upgraded to indicated status. The Corbell main resource, as you see here on this plan map, is massive, almost 1 billion tons at an average grade of 0.3. Now, that resource has a lower grade portion here, the red shaded area, which we will be processing utilizing ore sorting. This deposit lends itself to ore sorting exceptionally well. Our test work has shown very unique and special in that regard. And so we can upgrade this material in that 0.3 to say 0.8 gram per ton range. We can upgrade up to 6 grams per ton, our test work has shown. However, our phase 1 scoping study, we optimized that to upgrading 0.3, 0.4 material to about 1 to 1.2 grams per ton. Now, within that Corbell main deposit, there's also a much higher grade feeder structure. And so we consistently get 50 to 100 meter intercepts in that 1 to 1.5 gram per ton range. And so that'll be direct mill feed. There's approximately, I believe it's 1.6 million ounces in that high grade feeder structure that'll be direct mill feed. Across the wider Corbell Valley, massive upside, massive upside. Numerous other gold targets. And ones to point out here are the cathedral target, which we have, our surface sampling shows that we get samples up to 114 grams per ton, 90s, 20, 30 grams per ton in a certain area there. And we've drilled that now. We drilled that this year, and that drilling is now complete. I believe it was a total of about 10 holes. And assay results still pending, but certainly the geology looks very promising there. And also we've drilled some holes in the nearby U Beauty target, and so assays pending there as well. And there's further targets in the as we move forward here throughout that Corbell Valley that we will be drilling as well. So very exciting at Corbell main as our bulk tonnage resource, but perhaps at Cathedral, this will be another one of these RPM or even halfway to RPM in terms of the tenor of the grade there, and the drilling will tell the story. So we're very excited about Corbell. So with those two deposits, RPM, the high grade resource, Corbell, our bulk tonnage resource, we're really unlocking, and we have unlocked the Estelle gold trend with those two deposits. One thing to note at Estelle is that we're all on state land. What that means in terms of permitting and the operational environment is that it's much more streamlined, and we can advance things much more quickly. No federal land or native corporation land to deal with, all on state land. Our environmental and permitting studies are well advanced, with wetlands mapping completed, fish studies completed, rock geochemistry completed. And that, to note there with the rock geochemistry, we found that our waste rock is very neutral to actually neutralizing. And so what that means is that the acid generating potential is nil to, very, very low to nil. and actually neutralizing. So we can use this material for road base or a foundational material for infrastructure. So very positive outcomes there so far. And also the final component in the environmental studies is hydrology. And so we've installed now surface monitoring stations and hydrology wells for groundwater monitoring and hydrologic studies. This map here really shows the conceptual mine plan and some of the trade-off studies we're looking at. In the scoping study stage, we envision a Corbell, a central processing facility located at Corbell, and then a number of haul routes to access the other deposits, namely RPM, will be hauled along that route to Corbell. We'll be looking at trade-offs, whether it's truck haul or potentially slurry pipeline, conveyor systems. That's what we're looking at in the scoping study. Now, as we move on to PFS and RPM starts to develop into a much larger resource, which it looks like it is, we're starting to build the case that perhaps we might have an early processing facility and start in the south area near RPM. And that there is a potential site there that we've looked at that is suitable for a processing facility there. Once you start getting 6, 7, 8 years of production out of RPM, then it makes sense to start the project down in the southern area. And with Train looking so exciting, also nearby in that area, which we intend to drill next year, that'll also add additional resources which could support a plant there in that southern RPM area. And speaking of plants and processing, we have a proven flow sheet. We've proven this through metallurgical test work in our phase 1 scoping study. Very simple, off-the-shelf, conventional technology, very simple flow sheet. Crushed, then Corbell lower grade material goes through the ore sorting process, and that's all been proven through test work. And then Corbell high grade and RPM goes through the milling circuit, where we grind down to 85 microns and then submit it to flotation, where we're getting over 95% recovery. That concentrate then goes through a regrind step down to 22 microns, still quite coarse, which then goes into intensive leaching, where our test work has shown over 96% recovery through the leaching process, and then through a typical gold extraction plant where we produce doré bars, which should be quite pure, very, very few deleterious or other elements. So the bars should be quite pure. Moving forward, what's our strategy over the next 12 to 18 months? Lots of exciting things happening. So, of course, there'll be a resource update coming once we receive the results for the 30,000 meters of additional drilling we've done this year. That'll then be fed into our phase 2 scoping study, which will include the high-grade RPM resource, which we expect to be, indicated status for sure, but potentially some measured resources there as well. And then PFS trade-off studies and PFS test work has already commenced, and that'll continue through next year to release a PFS as soon as possible after the phase 2 scoping study. And drill concurrently, we'll be doing additional drilling at RPM, of course, the highest priority. Also, we'll be going to Train, the Stony prospect as well, and potentially more in the Corbell area if the drilling at Cathedral that we did this year is looking good. And so all this is subject, of course, the timing and where we drill subject to assay results. Of course, there's been struggles with turnaround times through the assay labs, and so yet to be seen. The pre-feasibility study will then, of course, come out, and with our exploration programs continue as well nonstop all summer this year, and we expect further discoveries to be reported in the very near future in these areas and others. So the drilling this year, which is ongoing, to date at RPM North, here's a bit of a breakdown. RPM North, 9,000 meters drilled. RPM South, 3,000 meters drilled. Cathedral, 5,000 meters drilled. Corbell Main, 10,000 meters drilled. That's that infill drilling to get it all up to indicated status. And then we also did the hydro wells this year, approximately 1,000 meters drilled. So as you can see, lots of assays still outstanding. Some have been received for RPM North, but there'll continue to be assays coming in over the next weeks and months to come. And this is our schedule. Resource drilling and resource upgrades just continuing nonstop as we progress through next year and beyond. Scoping study phase 1, check, completed, looking at Corbell only. Now with RPM ready to go, we're moving on to scoping study phase 2, which is in progress to include RPM in the production schedule. Pre-feasibility study work has already commenced, and we hope to have that out in early 2024. And all things going well with assay turnarounds, straight into the bankable feasibility. We would like to have a decision of mine sometime in 2025 and start to look at project financing with the first gold pour and digging up the first dirt by the end of 2026. And you know, a lot of things to consider there, and a lot of other factors outside of our control to consider. But that's our current schedule, and ambitious, no doubt, but many things working in our favor. So as the studies progress with Corbell and RPM, the existing resources, of course, we're developing a prospect pipeline with our exploration programs. Already made several very significant discoveries at Train, where we have 20 to 30 gram rock chips over a surface exposure of 1 kilometer in strike, 500 meters in width. Seems to be another one of these very large intrusive related gold systems. The Stony prospect, which is adds a whole new dimension, a polymetallic vein system with high grade gold, high grade silver, high grade copper there at Stony. And what we're seeing now with our exploration programs this year, and we expect to announce further discoveries, is that there will be other prospects that will come online. And so the next drill target, of course, is Train next year, where we expect to start to define a third resource to put in our resource inventory. So let's put all this into context. What are we talking about here? A 35 kilometer long corridor. You know, I from experience of worked on the Carlin Trend in the past, I see many similarities. Certainly different geology. The geology is different, but in terms of scale and potential resource endowment, I see a Carlin Trend type scenario developing here at Estelle. If you think of the Carlin Trend, 130 million ounces total resource, over 80 million ounces produced to date. This is what I believe is shaping up at the Estelle Gold Project, and the reason why we refer to ourselves as the Carlin of the North. And this is really the opportunity for investors, both near, medium, and long term. Nova Minerals very undervalued relative to peers, even peers that are less advanced at project stage than Estelle. And so we believe there's a re-rate coming as the gold market recovers and the investment community begins to appreciate the scale and world-class nature of the Estelle Gold Project. And so big opportunity. In terms of our values as a company and the value that we create for our stakeholders, we have, you know, our policies here at the Estelle Gold Project are hire Alaskan, buy Alaskan. Over 90% of our employees are Alaskans. A significant portion of that directly from the Mat-Su Borough local communities here. We support local communities through numerous efforts, support youth sports programs, Iditarod, Iron Dog, these iconic Alaskan events. We support those. Alaska Resource Education. So many. We're members of the Alaska Miners Association. We're members of the Resource Development Council. So we do our part to really engage with our communities and support them, because we want to be a responsible developer and that operates in a very healthy and safe environment for our employees. It's important to note also that we're a year-round operation. We have the infrastructure in place, fully winterized 80-person camp, all the processing facilities at the site, airstrip, access. And so this allows us to operate and really move the project forward in a cost-effective way. To summarize, why have a look at Nova? Why invest in Nova Minerals? Firstly, we have a very rapidly growing resource, 9.6 million ounces, with no end in sight. Very steep trajectory. The more we drill, the more ounces we get. Simple equation. We believe, and we're on track, that we're the next world-class global gold producer. Certainly, with this type of a project, our aim, we're an aspiring gold producer, and our aim is to join that exclusive club. We're in a tier 1 jurisdiction, and the fact that we're all on state land, state mining claims, that tenure in this day and age, such an important consideration, the whole sovereign risk component of projects, and so that bodes well for the Estelle Gold Project. You know, myself, I'm an Alaskan. I grew up here. I have over 30 years working around the world, bringing projects into production. My forte is really taking resource stage projects and bringing them into the production. The fact that I've been here and I live here and I work here is really enabling us to keep the project moving forward rapidly. Phase 2 scoping study just around the corner to include the RPM high-grade resource. And so the numbers there should be quite well received, I believe. Ongoing drilling campaigns to keep adding to the resource inventory and discover more resources. It'll just be nonstop drilling. Always big part. Most of the budget will be going towards drilling and defining resources. We've had some of the best hits globally in the last few years at RPM, and we rattled off some of the numbers, and they're listed here again. But more of those to come. We have a lot of outstanding drill holes yet to be reported and the results yet to be received. So expect more of that. Watch the news flow there. And then, of course, the endless upside across the Estelle Gold Project with 20 other known prospects that we're advancing, and the Train prospect, which will start to get drilled next year. And that wraps up our Nova Minerals company update for October 2022. I thank you for joining us, and I look forward to the next update.